All right, welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today we are reviewing It Follows from 2014. A young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after a sexual encounter. This movie has a 95% critic score and a 66% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. Horror mystery thriller, 1 hour 41. Just me and Brian here today, which I think I kind of lucked out on a little bit because I made this pick, and it was going to be me, Brian, and Andrew. Andrew couldn't make it. Brian and Andrew aren't the biggest fans of this movie. I know Brian's seen aspects of it. He hasn't seen the whole thing until now. This is only my second time seeing this movie. So I'm not like a huge fan of it, but I do like it. So a lot to talk about, a lot to debate. But I guess Brian, off the bat here, what did you like about the movie, or what did you think about the movie? I guess.
All right, so like Joshua said, and honestly, this would be brought up throughout the whole month of October. I've already brought the boy up on our The Thing episode, but my boy Jack Kelly, who is actually supposed to make a guest appearance for my pick, we'll get there eventually. But he obviously got me into all these horror movies and stuff. And so, like Josh said, I knew aspects of the movie. We had started the movie. I don't ever remember finishing it. It's a really good original idea. Like the idea of this entity following Jay the whole fucking time is like it's cool, and no one else can see it until they do, which you see throughout the movie, which was like really cool. I just feel like it started off strong to where I was like, okay, this isn't going to be like a movie that absolutely blows my socks off, but it does have a good premise going, and then it just started falling short for me like halfway through the film. And with that being said, because this is going to get brought up, this is basically like what Smile did, which we reviewed last year. And I kept relating it to Smile, and I'm not going to sit here and say like, oh, well, Smile is the best movie ever, but it took this idea that the It Follows had, and they kind of did it better in a sense. And in that sense, like Smile isn't an original film, so that makes it worse. But again, it felt more like a complete movie to me, you know? And this one, again, it had its moments where it just really wasn't fucking doing it for me. And it was just typical white girl in a horror movie doing terrible ideas. Like, those tropes were there. Like, they say the guy sits her down and they thankfully gives her, like, cliff notes of what this thing is. And it's just like, yeah, don't go into a room that has one exit, and within 10 minutes, she's in numerous rooms with only one exit. And you're like, what are we doing here? And it's just shit like that was eating me alive. But when you sit down and think about it, it is from the perspective, essentially, of, like, I would assume these are, like, teenagers. Like, I don't even think they're really, like, 21. Like, they almost look like they're, like, 19 at this point. Because,
I know Jay in real life, the actress was 21, but I think you're right. Like they're either freshmen or sophomores, maybe in college, freshmen.
Right, because again, when they showed that picture and the guy was in a varsity jacket, they knew that was a high school, a local high school, and so like that would mean it would just be a couple years removed. So that's why you would think at most maybe they're 20. But then when you think of that though, then it's like the things I was kind of pissed about is like, well, fuck, like we were stupid at 19, 20 years old. Like I guess I get it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's the thing though, is after we watched Smile, I was like, this movie's so similar. And I think me and you mentioned that when we reviewed Smile.
Because again, like I said, I knew the beginning, and I knew the premise of it.
Yeah.
And so that's why Smile, I was like, okay, this isn't an original film, but again, I just think it did a little better. The jump scares were a little much in Smile, like they're very forced, a little more predictable. This one was kind of like, there was an edge of like you're on your toes, but again, I spoiled it for myself watching Smile, so kind of like, this is about to happen, huh?
Yeah, and that's kind of what's interesting about it is like if you had seen this first all the way, or if you had seen Smile first, like some of our friends, then maybe you'd go into it with a different perspective. But yeah, after watching Smile, I was like, I really wanted to watch this again just to see how it compared to it, and it wasn't really on anything. It's not on any streaming platforms like a Netflix or anything like that.
No, it's on Amazon now if you wanted to watch it now. But
yeah, I rented it on Amazon. So I saw if you had Paramount Plus. I do have Paramount Plus. I have it for like the next month. My Fire Stick does not work for Paramount Plus. So I was like, am I going to watch it on my phone? I want to watch it on the TV, relax.
Right.
I paid the $4 like an idiot. So but whatever. And it too, I've seen this movie before, so
Right.
I'm just stupid. But two, what I thought was like this would be a good pick because besides me and you, the rest of the small guys can't really handle horror movies as well. They're scared of horror movies, and this movie, I think you can agree to it, not really scary.
No.
What's freaky about it is that she's always being followed, right? But like, it's not really scary. There's not, like you said, Smile has like the jump scares and stuff, although they're more obvious, like when they're coming.
Mhm.
This one really doesn't have that. It really doesn't have anything like that. So I was like, this is a movie they could handle.
Mhm.
I thought they're still a little scared.
Yeah,
clearly.
we moved the day and everything, and they were like, "Oh, I can't make it, dude." It's like, what?
Yeah, is it a horror movie? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
You know, not to
I
talk
think they
shit
could have
about
handled
them,
it,
it sounds like they hate the month of October when we have good shit. Because again, I eat this stuff up. Like I love it. I
Yeah.
get scared, and that's like it's a good feeling. It feels refreshing. You know, you feel like a human because you know we see so much fucked up shit in our daily lives through the internet and stuff like that. It's nice to sit
Mhm.
down and watch a nice fictional scary movie and get a little spooked with your pals, and then you go to bed and you're like, "Ah, it's just a movie." Maybe check underneath your bed. I may or may not have done that. And then I went to bed.
Yeah. I mean, they're movies at the end of the day. It's not, I don't know. But yeah, so I was like, this is probably something they can handle because it's just creepy. It's not really scary, I would say.
Right.
So.
And I've said it before. I think I've said it a couple times, and I definitely said it during Smile, that this is
Mhm.
like one of my biggest fears is like essentially being like a schizophrenic, you know, and like hearing and seeing stuff that other people can't see.
Yes.
And the fact that this is happening to them, like you just sound like a fucking crazy person, but you know something is out there trying to kill you. What
Mhm.
was cool about this one, though, relative to Smile, was that you could see, sorry, not see, but like the person being followed could be like, do you see that person? And someone normal be
Yeah.
like, what person? And then you know to fucking hightail it, get the fuck out of there. Like that is not a normal person. That is It Follows.
Yeah. And dude, there's so many instances, and we'll mention it kind of as we talk about certain parts of the movie, but like, there's people in the background walking, and you're like, is that it or no? And you don't
Mhm.
know. And I love that the movie did that kind of stuff because it put you in Jay's shoes, where it's like being kind of schizo. Like, is that
Mhm.
real or is it not?
Yep.
And another cool thing about it, to just talk about the beginning of the movie, is we kind of see two different characters um, being followed by it, and we don't see it,
Mhm.
right? Which is really cool. And once Jay has it and it's following her, then we finally are able to see it because we're experiencing things through her eyes. I thought that was pretty cool. What did you think of that?
I also agree that it was a cool way to do it because again, when we first start off, and I forget the guy's name that gives it to her,
Mm-hmm.
she like is strapped to the chair, and he's like, "This is proof that this is real." Like, hey, this is the again. He gives her the clip notes, and it's just like, "Hey, so I just passed this thing off to you." And like you're like sitting there as like a girl her age, probably thinking, "Oh fuck, like I got the clap." Like he gave me some type
Yeah.
of STD. No, instead he gave her like a demon paranormal ghost that will kill you, and he has to prove to her that it's real. And then just fucking drops her off in the middle of the street and drives off. Like what an actual dick. But then from
After he
there,
drugged her.
exactly. So then after that, you're sitting there and you're just like, "What the hell was that, dude?"
Mm-hmm.
And you get into it, and you're wondering like, when's it gonna happen? Because again, technically, now she's an abuse victim. Like off rip, that's like how they're treating it. And like
Yeah.
even the cop, and this is something I was gonna ask at some point, is like if it had to be like a consensual thing, because I feel like the cop put emphasis on like, was this consensual? And she was like, yeah, like we consensually had sex, but obviously in her head she's like, I didn't sign up to have like a demon following me. Like that's insane.
Yeah.
Um, so that was another thing I was gonna say. So like, if someone was being followed and they wanted to be a piece of shit, and they were I don't know if we're gonna get banned if we put this on YouTube, but like we'll go with rapist. If you were a rapist and
Mm-hmm.
you passed it on to someone, like would that count, or does it have to be an act of like, oh, like we're in love and like we both want to be here, and it passes on? And that
Yeah,
was
I
like a
don't
whole
know.
aspect I was thinking about throughout the movie, like because again, someone could easily be a piece of shit, drug someone. Like obviously, we watched Jay get drugged, but this was after consensual sex, so it's like,
Yeah.
how would that work?
And I'm sure too. There's been, I'm sure of it. There's been murderers of like or serial killers where they'll be able to have sex with them and then kill them afterward. Probably Ted Bundy.
Hmm.
Just as an example. But yeah,
Right.
have sex with them, make them fall in love with him, and then tie him up and do shit like that. Like it's fucked. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, clearly they can tell she was tied up and drugged. So like they think she's just out of her mind.
Hmm.
And I assume with her friends too, because
Yep.
who would believe a demon's chasing after her?
Yeah, and shout out to her because those are technically her sisters, right? That are with her, and then
The
like
one's her sister.
okay,
The
only
other
one's her
one's
sister.
yeah, and the other two are her friends.
Okay,
Or their
so
friends.
they were cool. Granted, again, they were childhood friends, but like when she's sitting in school, right, and she's back
Mhm.
after everything, and she's sitting in
Love
school,
that scene.
dude, it got me.
One
I
of
was
my
like,
favorites.
hell no. Well, you put an old person in one of those
Yeah.
gowns that look like they're dying and they're walking towards you, like that freaks me out as is. But now you know
Yeah.
it's not even a real person that other people can see. That
Yep.
got me. I was like, holy shit! And again, this is where the movie was like good to me. Like this is where I was like, all right, like I'm in it. Like this can't be that bad. And so yeah, so like that happens, and she instantly just takes off. And also, she's in college, and that professor's like, excuse me," like no one
Yeah,
does
like, bitch,
that.
I'm paying you.
Yeah, exactly. I pay for this shit. Like, what if she like you could just get up
I had to
and
go pee.
Yeah.
What if she had to go pee? Is she supposed to raise her hand and ask? Like it's elementary school? Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, that pissed me off.
But so after that, she like goes to the ice cream store, and Paul's there, and I forget the girl's name, and she like tells her what's up, and they're
Kelly,
like,
her
oh,
sister.
yeah, and they were just like, all right, this girl might be crazy, but also she did just go, she's a victim of abuse. And Paul's like, dude, I'll like stay on your couch, like I got you. And in my head, I'm like, dude, you can't fucking even see the demon. Like, what are you talking about? And that's where the movie like really started picking up, and like I was in, and that's when he's sitting on the couch, and she can't sleep, and goes downstairs, and they're chilling, and the window breaks, and that didn't make any sense to me, which we later find out why the window broke. And the window broke, and I was like, I thought this thing was like a demon, like it can't just like phase through. Like I guess would make it even worse. Like I guess
That'd be
it's good
terrible.
to know that
Yeah.
you have to like go through. Like it can't just phase. It has to actually like open a door, open a window. So like there's a little bit of heads up.
Thank God it can't talk too.
Oh my God! See,
can you imagine? Because it takes other people's faces that you know.
Right. Well, and see, that was the thing though that I was gonna say that I think Smile did a little better, and it was a little creepier. Again, the jump scares were like you knew it was coming in Smile solely because the sound was giving it away. Like it gets super quiet, and then boom, like a jump scare. That was cool though in Smile because they were manipulating shit. They were manipulating phone calls. They were setting off alarms. Like they were doing all types of crazy shit to drive you even crazier. And like killing themselves in front of people, and like you have to watch that. Like this one would just walk up and follow you and fucking twist your leg 180 like the girl on the beach that we saw.
Yeah, that was a gruesome death too.
Oh, it was. Dude, I felt so bad. Imagine getting that phone call because again, like I've never done that, but like I had came home fucked up from the bar, and I like tell my parents I love them, and they're just like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I'm like, nothing. I'm just drunk. I love you guys. But like she just sporadically ran out of the house and calls her dad, and he's like, "I just want to tell you, Mom, how much I love you guys, and Dad, I'm so sorry for being a little shit." And then you look, and a bad chiropractor got her, and she's all mangled.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you'll never figure out what happened to her. That's the worst part too, for sure. I mean, I don't know. It's fucked. But yeah, dude, it's like in that scene too, we were talking about where they're on the couch talking, and then they're upstairs in all the room, and her friend knocks on the door and says, "Hey, it's me." And they open it, and dude, that 7-foot tall guy,
that scene got
creepy.
me. Dude, my roommate, I watched it with both of my roommates, and my one roommate is super down with it. Like I usually text her, like I text her, and I was like, "Hey, I have to watch this scary movie." And usually around October, she would sit in with me and Jack when we did it. And I was like, "Jack isn't here this year. You got to step up for me." And she's like, yeah, I'll watch whatever with you. And so she was down, but our other roommate was waiting for his food, and he was chilling out there with us. When that motherfucker was standing behind Paul, all you heard of him goes, "Ah!" He jumped up, and he goes, "What the fuck is Yao Ming doing back there?" And I was like, "Yeah, that motherfucker was tall."
Yeah, he's 7'7" apparently, and he's from Detroit.
Yeah. Isn't the whole movie technically Detroit?
Yeah, so I have it right here, which is really cool. So It Follows was filmed in Clark's Ice Cream, a Clawson High School, Detroit, J.C. Park, Northville Hospital, let's see, Packyard, Automotive Plant, Redford Theater, Sterling Heights, And the University of Detroit Mercy and the
Nice.
Waterworks Park. So all
Nice.
over.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they did it for tax reasons. The budget for this movie, I think, is anywhere from like 1 million to 1.8 million. It
Mhm.
made over 20 million worldwide, so it made a profit. And that's the thing is, Smile had a much bigger budget. Obviously, they had bigger
Right.
stars in it, which
Mhm.
makes sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, this movie obviously has less killing too.
Right.
But I mean, for the budget, I think for a horror movie, I think they did pretty well with that
I'd
aspect of it.
agree.
But yeah,
And
it being in Detroit was cool.
right, and it's cool because I did kind of recognize Northville Hospital because I'm sure you know this. We had numerous friends throughout high school where they went and visited Northville Hospital after night. Like, obviously, we're not condoning
Yeah.
doing this. I've never
No.
done it, but it is trespassing now. Like, we know people that got arrested for it. But like, it's known to be super fucking haunted. And now
Yeah.
they set up like, isn't that technically where? No, that's not where Ellis is at. I'm thinking of the other one that's in like Westland. But
Oh.
like Northville is like notoriously known for being haunted. So the fact they were in there is like you're already in a scary ass place filming a scary movie. Like it almost feels genuine how scared they were.
Yeah. And dude, you could just tell like when her and her sister are walking down the street, like in neighborhoods, like this is Michigan. I don't know. Like, you could just tell it's like the Detroit area.
Yeah,
Like,
well, what got me was when the one girl was like, "My mom always said never go past 8 Mile at this time of night," and I was like, 8 Mile, and I go, "Is this Detroit?" And my roommate Abby was like, "Yeah, that ice cream shop was like kind of near where she used to live," and I was like, "Holy shit!" And like I did
Wow.
not know that.
Oh, so you didn't know till that point, huh?
No, I didn't.
Oh wow. Yeah, so I knew before seeing this movie for the first time that it was shot mainly in Detroit.
Okay.
So that was one of the few things I knew about it, and that's what made me excited to go watch it. Same with like Barbarian when we watched that. I was excited
Barbarian. I knew
because
that
it's in
though because like that was like a whole
Yeah.
thing. Was there's Airbnb in Detroit, which made it funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was really funny too. I kept making jokes that like because they were showing shots of like the city, obviously, and I go, "Oh yeah, that's actually before the gentrification, before all the hipsters moved in." And I was like, "Little do you
Mhm.
know, that's actually Wayne State campus now."
That's funny. Well, what did you think of like the different eras in a way? Like the girl was using like a Shell smartphone, and then they had old TVs, and then they had cars from anywhere from the 70s to like the modern 2000s,
Mhm.
all over the place. And the reason they did that, and I'll mention it more in the movie trivia, but the director wanted it to feel more like a dream in the movie. So like there is no time period; it's all over the place.
Mhm.
I kind of think that's pretty cool.
I was gonna say
For a
that's a
horror
cool
movie.
aspect to it. Now that you're like pointing it out, like that's a dope
Yeah.
idea. Yeah, no, think about that. Yeah, they
I
actually
think the
killed
first
that.
time I watched it too, I completely like shrugged off the shell phone.
Mhm.
Like I just figured it was a smartphone and wasn't really noticing it too much. And then this time around, I was like picking up on it, and then I looked it up after the fact, and I guess that's why. But I thought that was pretty neat.
Mhm. Now everyone has an iPhone and shit.
Yeah, dude. So that tall guy comes up, and then she jumps out the window and drives away, and that happens quite a bit during this movie. Whenever she's getting chased, she'll pretty much leave her friends to go drive
Mhm.
away just to get it to leave for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, if I was in her shoes, what you could do is, and this is obviously really expensive, and she doesn't have the money to do this.
Get on a plane.
If you lived in like New York, you could fly to
Dude,
fly to
I said
California,
the
stay
same
there
thing.
for a couple weeks.
What would happen? Like, because that motherfucker's walking. It can't teleport. Like, what would happen if she got on a fucking plane and took off? Like, I'd be
She'd
hard
have-
to sell to her mom.
She'd have a lot of time. Yeah.
I don't know. I was thinking
And
the
then
same
you're like,
thing.
we're coming up on a couple weeks here. Like, this thing's got to be close.
Yeah. And there was a couple things in the movie where I was saying it to my roommates. I was like, why the fuck didn't they do this? And they actually hit on it. So, like, when they go and they visit the guy that gave it to her, and he literally, because I kept going, I was like, well, he obviously wasn't a rapist. Like, he seduced this young woman and consensually had sex with her and passed this thing on. And I go, but she is a girl. I was like, really? She's got to go to a bar, get a couple drinks, and like could probably pass that easy. And the guy even says it at one point. He goes, well, you're a girl. Like, this should be much easier for you. And I was like, all right. Well, now that guy's an asshole. That makes me an asshole for even thinking that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you could go to a frat house, try to spread it there. Prostitutes, which we see later in the movie.
Yeah, that was another big one.
There's options, you know what I mean? But it's like, if they're all in one area, let's say it's on a university, it just goes around that university. It can probably get back to you pretty quick. I mean, you'd want to spread it around the U.S. probably, you know what I mean? Just to give you a ton of time.
Well, see, and that was the thing too. Like, because then the topic of a plane and a prostitute, I was like, if she took off to like Vegas, let's say, where it's legal, fucks a prostitute there. Prostitute's gonna fuck someone else. Like, she's got two people in the way at this point. Now she just has to be on her toes for a while and like figure out if it's coming back or not.
Well, too, like, what if she went to London? Like, is that thing gonna take a fucking boat? I don't know. You know, I thought about that too. I'm like, what? You know, I wonder that. Like, what to what extent?
And I was reading up on it. That's what the director wanted, because there is a lot of what ifs and what could be's. Mm-hmm. And again, that's what makes it like a cool factor of the movie. But again, as we'll get to it, there's just certain parts where it fell short for me. So again, everything at this point is like pretty cool. They end up, because the guy that gave it to her faked his name, rented a house, and they go and they find his house finally because they get the name, or they go to the house at least, and they go inside and it's all booby trapped. And it doesn't make any sense because you're like, what the fuck? But now you get it, is like, oh, the entity broke the window to fucking get in. Like, this guy was just so paranoid. He had cans and shit, and he was ready to go. Like, he was ready to bolt out of there at any point. And which a really cool thing, too, was, like, the fact that, like, when they opened up the pill cabinet, if you notice, the pill bottles had all the labels scratched off that would have his name. And you're like, damn, this guy was, like, really thinking. Like, this isn't, like, a sloppy cleanup. Like, this guy put thought into it and was like, I'm getting rid of this entity one way or another. Like, it's not going to be me.
Yeah, because you think right away at the beginning of the movie, this guy's an asshole for giving it to this innocent girl. But it's like, clearly he's tried a bunch of shit and he's given up hope.
Yeah, and do you think that first girl that we see, do you think, like, he gave it to her, but she wasn't able to escape it, and it came back to him, and he had to do it all over again? That's what I was thinking. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, so then from there, that's when they take off, and that's when they introduce the bad boy neighbor, Gabe. And Gabe takes them up north. And they go up north.
Or Greg.
Greg.
Yeah.
And takes them up north, and it's like, that is so fucking stupid. Let's go in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, in a sense, it makes sense because they went so far. But the second, like, their plan shouldn't have been, oh, we're going to hang out here. No, the second she sees it, we're back in the car. We're heading back home. We're doing something. But they were like, oh, let's hang out, have some drinks on the beach. And that was one scene where you could see it walking up. Before it attacks and grabs her hair, you could see it walking up slowly. I was like, did you see that? And my roommate were on there, like, both of them happened to be on their phone. And I was like, dude, back there, like, there's a person. Again, that's really good shooting. Because, again, as much shit as I will talk about this movie towards the end, the whole cinematography throughout it was good as hell. Like, that guy killed it.
Perfect.
And so again, like, you could just see it in the background. No, you're good. I was just gonna say the fact that you could just see it in the background. You feel them.
Yeah. Well, one of my other favorite scenes, the camera work, like you just said, is one of the best parts of this movie. When Jay and Greg go to the school to figure out Hugh's name, like, and where he might live and stuff like that, they walk into the school and the camera goes 360. So it's following them down the hallway as they enter the principal's office. And the camera keeps going while they walk into the room. And then it goes to where you can see a window. And you see someone slowly walking at the window, like at the school.
Yep.
And it keeps going all the way around. And you want it to keep going back to the window to see how much closer it got. But then it focuses on them through the hallway. You're still there on that camera, aimed in at them looking at the yearbook. So it's like... It's things like that that's really cool. Or, too, when she's in the wheelchair at the beginning, when she's tied up, and like, he's spinning her around, the camera's still focused on her the entire time.
Yep.
Really cool, like, camera work. Really cool.
I agree, and especially with it being as low budget as well. Granted, we say low budget as we're talking about millions of dollars, but low budget in the sense of the movie. But, yeah, so, again, so they go up north, and, like, that's where it becomes more of, like a chase, really. Because that's when the thing attacks and it grabs her hair. And then this is where it got me. Because, like, Smile, again, no one could tell if, like, this person was smiling at you and is about to, like, kill themselves and, like, get you. This one pulls her by the hair and Paul hits her with the chair. I totally thought the chair was going to go through and he was just going to hit her. Like, I didn't think that was going to happen. And then some Stranger Things as force happens and he just fucking goes flying.
Flies.
It's like, what is this? And they take off to the shed. And they're chilling in there, and, like, that one also kind of got me where the door, like, fucking explodes, and you're like, all right, something's going to pop up. And it's just that little fucking, it looked like a little boy almost. And you're like, oh, hell no.
Yeah. And, too, like, when it's walking behind her on the beach, it's her sister.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for a second, we think, wait, did the sister get up and is walking back from, like, wherever she was? And then it flips back, and her sister's asking her, hey, do you want to go swimming? You're like, wait a second.
Uh-huh.
Like, wait a second. Were you right behind her? And, yeah, you see her hair go up, and then, obviously, Paul tries to hit her with the chair. Now they believe her. Like,
Yeah.
this is the first time where they genuinely do believe her and don't think she's going insane.
Mhm.
So yeah, so to your point, they probably thought taking her up north, drinking, relaxing by the beach would probably relax her more. And then after seeing that, they're like, "Oh fuck, like we're in trouble." So
And it can affect them. Like if they try to stop it, it can affect them. It won't kill them
yeah,
because they're not the target, but it will fuck you up if you get in its way.
yeah. I mean, he had like cuts and stuff on his
Uh-huh.
ribs, almost like
Yeah.
yeah, it'll mess you up if you get in the way. I like that aspect too. Like you said, if it would have went through, like the chair would have went through it, it wouldn't be as cool to me.
Mm-hmm. I'd
So
agree because then it's like an invincible force, and it's like we got no game plan here. You gotta. I thought they were gonna have to call like a demon expert and how to get rid of it, like
yeah,
they did in like Sinister or some shit like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, and then too, she runs away and gets into the car, and she's starting to drive away. Her friends have outran the demon
Mm-hmm.
and are right next to the car. She could easily have stopped the car and let them get in because the thing's walking. They're sprinting to the car. You know what I mean? Like they had a good head start on that thing. She could have just let them in, and they could have drove back home, or whatever.
Yep.
She ends up getting in that accident. I don't know, maybe not even a quarter mile away from where the
Not
enemy
even.
is.
Not. She makes it like one house down, and then that truck
Yeah.
backs up, and like that's supposed to be a jump scare too, because you just hear,
Yeah.
and then she of course hits a fucking cornfield. And again,
Yeah,
that thing's
camera work
walking.
was there
I
cool,
feel
too.
like it could have fucking got her right there, but instead she wakes up again in a hospital, and she's in a room, and she's watching. I was kind of glad there was no jump scare, but again, she's watching out of the hallway, and there's just people walking by and stuff, and you're like, all right, what the fuck. But then the scene after that is you don't even know if it's real or not, but out of nowhere, Greg's in bed with her, just fucking banging her. And you're like, okay, because again, Greg's the big bad boy. He's not scared. Mind you, Paul is trying to, this is the love of his life. Like, he loves her.
Yeah.
He's trying to catch his nut. And she fucking bangs fucking Greg. That shit had me rolling.
Yeah. Well, too, and she probably cares more about Paul and doesn't want to
Right.
put him at risk, right,
Mhm.
at that point. But yeah, and too, she says it later in the movie, but they had hooked up in high school prior, so it wasn't as weird. But
Right.
but yeah, they have sex, and then I think they say it goes like 3 days, and he hasn't seen anything. And I thought when they showed him and these other girls like in the mall, I thought he was gonna spread it around.
Right.
He didn't.
Right.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
that's what I thought too. I thought because again, he was sitting in between two honeys, and you're like, all right, well, Greg's a dog. Like he can go
Yeah.
do this and just get it a little ways away from our main character Jay, and that's not what happened.
Yeah, because if you hook up with hot people, then it should be easy to transfer around.
Just go.
You
It's
know,
like
poor-
an STD.
poor Hugh. Poor Hugh had to fucking put in the work.
Is his name Hugh or is his name Paul?
No, Hugh is the guy that gave it to her.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Yeah,
Hugh,
poor
did
Hugh had to put in some work, take her on a couple dates first,
Uh
and,
huh.
stuff like that. But if you look like Greg, you know what I mean? Like,
Greg's
come on,
a
this should
bad
be easier
boy.
for you,
Like,
buddy.
he's got this. Greg clearly smokes cigarettes and drinks beers. Like he's fun.
he's badass. Goes to bars, although he's underage. Still lives with his mom, but that's all right. Yeah, and so what did you think of that scene when she's up in her room watching
So
and she sees him trying to get into his own house, but it's not really him.
that was wild because that's when you understand why the window broke in the first place when Paul was sleeping on the couch with her, like staying up all night. And again, it has to like get entry. You can't just phase through anything. And you watch this thing just break the fucking window and jump in, and you're like, "Oh my god!" And Greg is like an asshole. He's giving me Nightmare on Elm Street vibes when I forget the guy's name, but he's like, "Oh, that shit's not gonna get me." Goes to sleep, gets killed by Freddy Krueger. That's how this one felt. And then it was fucked up too because that's when you can see that because Jay obviously runs to the house, tries to save him, jumps through the window, runs upstairs, doesn't turn any lights on. Stupid move. Should have turned some goddamn lights on.
Rookie mistake.
And then she's standing at the end of the hallway, at the top of the stairs, and at the end is where Greg's room's at. And now the thing has morphed into, I believe, Greg's mom. I think is what they said, something like that. And it's just banging on the door. and Jay says something to it, and the thing like looks at her and just goes right back to knocking on the fucking door, and you're like, okay, it's dialed in. Like, yeah, she can see it, but she's next in line. She's not the one now. And Greg opens it up, and then that was the thing too that made it weird was like because we didn't see it, we didn't see it kill anyone, but we saw what it did to that girl on the beach at the beginning. But like this one was like it looked like it was having sex with Greg.
Yeah.
like that made it even
His
weirder.
own mom.
Like, yeah, you're like, what the fuck is going on? And at that point, she's got to book it. She's fucking gone.
Yeah, you see her tit pop out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I should have told Aiden and Mike this because they would have definitely watched the movie. That there's nudity in this quite a bit.
Yeah, I know. Again, this
they
is
would've
like the
loved this.
horny version of Smile in a way.
Yeah, it is. Well, and I think it is kind of neat that they went that way with it because it is. I mean, technically, it is a sexual disease, right? I mean,
Right.
That's what it's being known as. So, yeah, to have that, and then that's the way they kill you. But then too, his body like was still kind of mangled up, and like his face was turned and everything like that. But yeah, you see like electricity or something when or the lights flashing or something like that when it's in there. But yeah, and then I'm like, Jay, book it. Like it's immediately when he's done, it's done with him, you're right there. You're the next target right there.
And see, and then that was the thing too, where it comes down to you kind of got to keep tabs on it. Would you want the person across the fucking street from you to have that like thing following you? Because the second it gets them, clearly he doesn't give a shit. It's coming next door. Like you're fucked.
Yeah, you're right there. Well, and then so we watch her drive away again. I think this is the fourth time we've seen this, but I mean that's kind of what you have to do. She couldn't have gone back home because it would have been like you said right there. She drives all the way into this like woods, falls asleep on the car, gets up, goes to the beach. What did you think of that? She goes into the water. She sees this boat with three guys.
Dude, she totally fucked them. There's no way that she didn't, right? She did.
Oh, no, 100%.
Because she drove back all soaking wet. Because, again, she strips through her underwear, gets in the water, and when she's driving back, she's soaking wet. And you can see it in the faces. Like, it's that whole moral dilemma of, did she want to pass this thing off to someone else? Or did she want to try to be the one to stop it? Or did she want to sacrifice herself and just be like, fuck this, I'm done playing the game. Like, go back to the next person. Like, kill me. You know? And, like, you could see it in her face that, like, that's where it made it feel like she totally had sex with at least one of those guys. And but by then, they got fucking murked. They got murked within the day.
Yeah, because we don't see it again until, she goes home, talks with them. Paul has the idea to go to the pool. But when she's backing out the car, you see a naked man on the roof, which, how the fuck did that thing get on the roof? But yeah, so you can assume, I mean, you can think, oh, well, she didn't end up doing it. But, like, I think it's for most people to assume that she did have sex with
I think it's implied, because I was asking Jack about it, and Jack's like, yeah, I think she totally had sex with at least one of those guys. And I was like, all right, that's what we were thinking, too. So
yeah, because when she saw it, she's like, oh, shit, like, we got to hurry, because now it is back on me. You know what I mean? What did you think of the whole pool idea? Did you think it was going to work?
No, it was fucking stupid. It was so dumb. Like, once you realize what they were doing, I was like, this is silly. Like, this is actually silly. And then that's where it got fucking funny, because the thing won't get in the water, and she's just pointing at it, and it just starts yeeting all the electronics, because they were going to electrocute it. That was the master plan. And it starts yeeting the shit at her, and
throwing
like
toasters at her.
That motherfucker's throwing dimes.
Yeah, it's hitting her every time.
Dimes.
Yeah, she's in the middle of the pool, like trying to get underwater, but it's nailing her every single time.
Dude, and then
cuts her head open a little.
Dude, fucking Paul pulls out that gun, and I cracked up. He fucking shot the girl in the leg. It's like, of course he did. Oh, fucking course he did.
Yeah, what did you think of the part? Well, first too, you did notice who the face
that was her
was,
dad, right? That
her
was
dad.
her dad.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so they show a picture of him early in the movie, and actually, it's pretty cool. There's two pictures at the very, very beginning of the movie in her room. One is her in a pool as a kid. The other one's her dad, which at the end, she's in a pool. Her dad is trying to kill her, technically. So I thought that was really cool. Then at the end of the movie, they show her dad again. So just in case you missed it, you're like, oh, that's the dad. That's who it was. Makes sense why she didn't want to tell them. Anyways, they throw the blanket over it, and then you can see its form.
Yeah, that was cool because it was invisible. That part was actually cool because it was invisible, and it was just like, whoop, they threw the thing over it, and then Paul finally straightened up his shot and just fucking one-tapped it in the fucking head. You're like, all right, cool. no way, this is it. And of course, as she's swimming, the classic grab by the leg as she's trying to get away, and you're like, damn it.
Yeah, and I'm glad too in this movie they showed it earlier on when they're up north, but like shooting it can't kill it. I'm glad they kind of addressed it pretty earlier on, because at that point, if you're at the end of the movie, you're like, why the fuck don't they just try to shoot this thing or whatever? She could try to shoot it. It doesn't work. I mean, it stuns it, I guess. But yeah, it really doesn't do much. Kind of like Jason. If you shot Jason, he'd fall over and then just get back up.
Right, same with Michael Myers getting stabbed by fucking everything. That motherfucker's still back the next movie.
Yeah, he's back. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it grabs her foot, and then this dude Paul starts just shooting into the water. And you see the bullets go past like Jay's head, but it's like so close to one tapping her.
Which also great cinematography, because you see the bullet, like obviously you hear the bullet and then you see it slow mo in the water. You're like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and you're like, shit, don't hit her.
Yeah,
like you did your friend already. And then while this is all happening, her friend's like bleeding out almost from the leg.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It wasn't a good look, and so
not
technically they shoot it again and they leave, right?
They just see a pool of blood. She sees a pool of blood, and they leave.
And from there, everything's all happy dandy, except for, I was wondering, but again, it takes place in Detroit, so I guess they see it all the time. But I was like, what do you tell someone, like, my friend got shot in the leg? Like, how'd she get shot? Be like, like,
yeah, that's true.
Paul's going to jail.
Yeah.
But that happened, and then we see Paul catch his nut. The love of his life, finally. He did it. And that was special, I guess. I don't know. But then you're sitting there, and because, again, we had seen prior where Paul was just like, why didn't you pick me? And she's like, well, I figured Greg could, like, defend himself better than you. Like, he wasn't scared or anything. And now she passes it on to Greg. And in my head, which we'll get to, is like, that thing's not dead. There's no fucking way 2 bullets put that thing out after what we saw it do. And and then that's where it comes up, the prostitution. Because you see Paul in his car, and he passes by 2 ladies of the night, and it just stops right there. You don't know if he had sex with one of them or not, just to see if he could pass it. And that was, again, another great open-ended question as to what happened there.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it is kind of dark because, they're prostitutes in Detroit. Maybe people wouldn't care about them as much if they turned up dead. And then 2, it's like, he has sex with them, they're going to have sex probably within the hour. You don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and keep passing along. And then maybe the husband that they have sex with goes and passes it to his actual wife and not the prostitute. You know what I mean?
That's the exact same thing I said to my roommates. I was like, dude, because now it's going to be a married man, and he gives it to his wife, and then the wife is getting killed, and he's killed, goes back to the prostitute.
And then by the time it's back to her, she's giving it to someone else.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just never-ending circle of that. And
the prostitutes might not even know it's coming after that.
Exactly. Not until they take a weekend off, then they're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's another thing about, sexual diseases, too, and how they can spread. Right?
This whole thing actually is just a giant Christian movie. A lot of people didn't know that. Christian Foundation funded this one. Don't have sex, kids.
Yeah, so this is how the movie ends. One of my favorite scenes, too. I want to know what you thought of it. They're just taking a walk down the street, and it pans over to them. Someone's raking next to them or whatever, raking their leaves. And you just see someone walking about like 40 yards behind them, walking at a normal, slow speed. It's up to you as to whether or not that's it or if it's not. And I think that's kind of cool. It ends there. It's not dead. I don't believe it's dead. I think it's still out there. I don't know. What did you think of the ending? What did you think of all that?
Again,
did you think that was it?
I thought that was it, like as in It Follows, like not that was it, that was the end. No, I like that was the follower. Like I think the follower was fucking there. Like I don't think the plan was foolproof. I don't think 2 bullets put it out of its misery after fucking everything that we've seen. Like at that point, I don't know how the hell you would get rid of it, but it didn't seem like that was the end.
Yeah,
and that's where
I don't know too. Were they setting up a sequel? Do you think or no?
I was going to say that. I was going to say that, like a sequel, but also with the other things that we've touched on already in this review, is that the director did want an open-ended thing. He wanted all these questions to be arise as to what you could do. Because I even made a comment as to if it would be, let's say, like somewhere like an LGBTQ plus club where they're very sexually active and safe. like an STD wouldn't necessarily be worried, but like they're fucking like rabbits over there. And like with the thing, like just this is getting out there, but like let's say someone went to an orgy and they had the follower, then what? Like they're having sex with numerous people. Like, would it just blow up, or would it have like a feast? Like, would it kill them all at like once?
Yeah, so I actually have a movie trivia on this. I'll just mention it right now. The director came out and said it has to be heterosexual sex. So it has to be.
Yeah, so this really was made by the Christian companies, aren't they?
Yeah, it has to be from a girl to a guy or a guy to a girl, whatever. And no condom. Can't use condom. No protected sex.
Well, then maybe Paul didn't have sex with that prostitute because, like, if that's the route you're going on, there's no way you're not having protected sex with the prostitute. That's insane.
You never know. In Detroit, maybe you're cool with it.
You take the gonorrhea to get rid of the follower. Like,
I'd probably do it. If that were my options. Yeah. So I didn't know that. I guess it makes sense. The grand scheme of things, but yeah, I didn't know that because I thought the same thing. I'm like, go to an orgy. I mean, you can still do it, right? Guys and girls have sex there, so
right.
But yeah, I don't know, dude. I think it's still gonna follow them. I think it's still an issue for them. It's just super interesting. I liked the way it ended, though, it being open ended, like that they weren't able to kill it. I thought that was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, but here we can go over the trivia, and I know I hit on a couple already. Mike Lehner, who plays the very tall It, is 7'7" and a Detroit resident who designs engines for General Motors.
Nice.
And is one half of the world's tallest twins.
Hell
Dude's
yeah.
a twin.
Damn.
Yeah.
His twin, that'd be your luck. He's like 5'6".
Yeah. Probably. Yeah, that guy got all the height. The film's concept derives from a reoccurring nightmare the director used to have.
Oh, fuck
in which
that.
he would be stalked by a predator that would continually walk slowly towards him. He wrote and directed this movie. Pretty cool.
Nice. Good for him.
Yeah. I did mention this one earlier. The time frame of this movie is intentionally kept undefined. That way it resembles a dream. Many appear to be from the 60s to the late 80s century, even with like the TV sets and the phones and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the girl at the beginning of the film uses a cell phone that drives a modern automobile with several modern vehicles in the view. So, yeah, it's really hard to figure out what time era this takes place in, and that's the whole point of the movie. Now, this I did not realize from watching this movie twice. The colors of red and pink are used to foreshadow the upcoming appearance of It, as it appears either in the background or in a character's piece of clothing whenever it attacks.
You know, that makes sense.
I'd have to,
because like there's like Christmas lights almost like when the entity first enters the home, and the same when they're in the bedroom, it was like red and pink in there. Damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, Brian, your light's kind of red.
No, it's orange. It's orange. It's orange. I swear.
I'd be careful. According to the production company, the film's budget was $1.3 million and was shot entirely in the state of Michigan for tax advantages. After its theatrical release, it grossed over $20 million, so it did make a profit. We mentioned that earlier. Very cool. That was all shot in Michigan. Similar to Real Steel, or I know Dawn of Justice was shot mostly here and all that stuff. They used Detroit as Gotham.
Transformers was used at one point at the train station.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense to film here just because tax breaks and stuff like that, and if you want to destroy buildings. Obviously, 8 Mile, which we talked about recently, was also shot here. The director has cited the works of George A. Romero and John Carpenter as major influences of his style of filming and creative decisions in this movie. We just did a John Carpenter movie last week.
Yep.
Really cool. I mean, that's the guys you'd want to get inspired by to make a movie like this, for sure.
Definitely. And the way that they look, too, because, George Romero was, like, the first zombie guy. He was the guy that coined the word zombie. And, like, the way that these people are looking. Because that was the thing, too. He didn't want the movie to be super, like, horny, like how we said. Like, granted, yes, there's tits out, but, like, they look dead. Like, it's not, like, you're not, like...
It's not attractive.
It's not like the horror films that have became modernized, basically, now, like, the newer ones, where it's just like super out there and it's just people having sex for nothing that does with the plot, like this one was like necessary for the plot, and it was done tastefully, if you will.
Yeah, and every time there's a sex scene, it's like it's fucked because like you're giving this demon to someone else. You know what I mean? It's not like it was hot or anything like that. So, sadly, director said that neither a condom nor same-sex gender would stop the monster, and the curse would still be passed. So it wouldn't be wait. Yeah, neither the condom nor same sex would stop the monster. Okay, I was reading that right. I just want to make sure I wasn't an idiot there. Yeah, so you couldn't do what me and Brian were thinking, which is go to like a LGBT orgy. Because I thought that too. Honestly, the second time watching it, I was thinking of all these scenarios and which of what I would do if I were her. But yeah, clearly it wouldn't work. So
like the U.S. government would be fucked, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder too, like how high up the chain is she? Like if she dies, if you dies, and that girl
I was
from the
wondering
bar
that.
You know what I mean? Like, does it go like 50 people, or is it like?
Yeah, I think it just keeps going back. I think it just keeps going back, and then I was wondering what would happen if it got back to 0.
Yeah, it's like in this world, there's not really social media, so how do you keep track of if someone were to die? You know what I mean? Like, you never know.
Like a Reddit, like r/followed. Like, hey guys, I passed this off. Like, hey guys, it's
comment
back.
here every day so we know we're safe. Yeah, you never know. I mean, you could pass it to 20 people.
It follows.
Yeah. You could pass it along, and then 20 years from now, you could have a lost family, stuff like that, and then it's following you again. You don't know.
Yeah, it's a crazy concept.
Yeah, so I like that a lot. But yeah, I guess that's all I have for trivia. We can kind of get into scores here. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
So, initially, I didn't really fuck with it at certain points, like I said. I feel like halfway through the movie is where it really started to lose me, and it was like, they were just making dumbass decisions. And again, it's a horror movie, and I know that's like a trope, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like it could have been done better. And like I said, Smile, clearly this was the absolute blueprint for it. Like, this was it. And that's what Smile did, and they used it a little bit better, made it a little more scarier in the sense. Again, like, mass manipulation of stuff is fucking insane to me. Like, the fact that it could make phone calls and stuff in Smile, because Hugh was like, this thing is like, it's slow but it's smart, it adapts. And I was like, oh shit, so like, this is legit gonna be like Smile. Didn't really adapt like that. It just adapted in the sense of getting closer to you through different people, which was scary. But again, I didn't think it could have been a little scarier in different parts. But yeah, then that ending that's supposed to be like the resolution and like the big scary, it was just funny to me. Like, she's sitting in the pool and he's fucking tossing irons at her. Like, that was so fucking funny. And thankfully their plan didn't work, because she would have been fried. Like, she would have gone up. Like, and that was it. But I mean, I can't necessarily say that I hate the film. I don't know. Well, obviously, maybe during October I'd rewatch it at some point, but like, it's not going to be one that I throw on my docket as I would As Above, So Below. But it, again, the cinematography was great alone. Like, he's just like, that director, it was in his bag, making great shots the whole time. And then on top of that, all the open-endedness to it. And I guess that's what I hated, was watching it. And then like, me and my roommates didn't really get to talk about it, so maybe that's why it left a bad taste in my mouth. But after getting to talk about it with you and getting to talk about it with Jack, it's like, okay, like, it's supposed to be like that. And when you think about it like that, it makes it a little better. And I'm not going to say it greatly improved the score I was going to give it, but I would comfortably give this like a 65. Originally, I was thinking like a 50, but like, I'd give it a 65, because it is teetering right there to where it could be a 70 for me. And maybe on a rewatch it will, but I don't know. I think 65 is comfortably where I would put it at. And I was glad to see that I wasn't the only one that felt that way, because I also did look at the Rotten after I came up with my number in my head. I was like, I wonder what Rotten puts it at. And to see how many critics loved it and what they were saying about it, I was like, okay, I get it, but also like, no. And then I was seeing people that like were the average Joe Blow that was reviewing it, and they're like, like, it fell short. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not alone in that. I'm not like crazy on the hot take about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's crazy, the swing, and you'd think, like, a movie like this, especially with it being a horror movie, that the critic score would be the low one, and maybe the audience one would be higher, because I feel like that's usually how it goes, especially for, like, maybe a cult classic, or an original, or, you know, a horror movie, or whatever it might be. So I was shocked it was swung that way. But yeah, to get my thoughts on it, and obviously I didn't really say the aspects I didn't like because there are parts I don't like. I mean, obviously like the acting really isn't that good, but that's the thing is you can say that about most horror movies, which kind of sucks. But
And that's
how
why
it
I
is.
wasn't gonna say it because again, like you
Yeah,
said, there's a lot of horror movies that scared the shit out of me, especially on Amazon. Like the ratings
yeah,
are bad, you just gotta rip through it. If it sounds interesting, chances are there's gonna be a good scare in it. The acting's gonna be shit, but like you can look past that.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing is like it's an original idea with like this movie made me think even like after watching it and clearly I've only seen it twice but like I still remembered it after all these years because it's such an interesting concept as to what you would do in that situation
Mm-hmm.
rather than like some of these horror movies where it's just like you just run away and then that's it and that might solve your problems whereas this like no, running away doesn't work, it's just going to keep following you. So and then them not finding a solution as to how to kill it is also pretty cool. Like it's not killable, or at least from what we know and what the
Mm-hmm.
characters know. Um, and it being left open ended. But like you said, in the middle of the movie too, there's certain aspects where it like really slows down. Like it's not on an equal footing the whole time. And there's so many times where she just drives off, gives herself some time, meets back up with the group, and it's just like, come on, like let's get going here. So I mean, even though it's an hour 40, which is perfect pace for this movie, it's just like there's certain aspects like that. So I'm gonna end up going with an 83. I still really enjoy this movie. The thing that, and this is what always gets me about this movie, is the camera works great, but they don't rely on jump scares, which a lot of these horror movies do. I'm not a huge fan of, unless there's like maybe one or two that are well deserved. That's great, but like when they're constant and they're predictable, that's what sucks. So like the scene where she's laying in the hospital bed and looking out in the hallway because she just hears walking and it's nothing. There's nothing there. Nothing happens in that scene, but just the walking is so creepy because it could be there. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Like it could be coming for you. So it's things like that. Like it relies on stuff like that rather than jump scares. So I appreciate that from this movie.
I agree.
Yeah. So that was our It Follows review. We're gonna have a couple more horror movie picks for our Tuesday episodes. I'm not sure if we'll do your pick next or how we'll go about doing who's next. Obviously, you do have a pick coming up.
I have a
So
pick
not
coming
to.
up, and my guest is in for next week if we wanted to get that
Okay,
recording
good.
on.
Yeah, because the people on this podcast are too scared to
They
watch
won't
some of
do
these
it.
movies. So
Can I announce what it is?
yeah, what
Or
is
do you
it?
want to keep it a
I
surprise?
don't even know.
Oh, dude,
I don't think I know.
I did some thinking about it. This isn't horror, like scary. It's just the idea of what happens throughout it. We're going
Mm-hmm.
with the original Saw, baby. Saw 2004.
Oh,
Dude, I'm
let's
so
go.
hyped. That movie has one of the biggest plot twists ever at the end. Like, I'm geeked. I'm excited for us to talk about it and bringing on a very special guest. It should be a good fucking time. Ideally, not even ideally, more than likely, knowing the group, it'll probably be the three of us, me, Josh, and our guest. Maybe
Yeah.
Andrew. I don't imagine Aiden and Mikey will make it.
Yeah, Saw's not really Andrew's thing. It's grotesque to him, I guess. The gore and stuff.
And we might be
I
able to
think it's
convince
cool.
him.
Like I think the
It's so,
contraptions are cool.
yes,
I've seen all of them.
it's a dope idea.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a good pick. So we'll probably do that one next Tuesday. Add that to the schedule, and that'll be a good movie to do. So, but thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your October. Hope you're out there getting spooked.
Have protected sex.
Yes, yes. Safe sex. This has been funded by the Christian Organization of Michigan.
Bye, guys.